everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Imaginary Boys. I am one of the two hosts, Mr. Habanero, and I have my secondary host, Mr. Lettuce. How are you doing, Mr. Lettuce?
Hey, man, how's it going?
I'm doing good. I still have a little bit of the giggles in me from some of the stuff we were talking about off mic, but I think I'm good. I'm feeling better. My back isn't destroying my entire body, which is amazing.
That's good.
Yeah.
You should probably get in the habit of doing more crunches, more core exercises, because if you're going to be swinging around Captain Hammer all the time, you kind of owe it to your lower back to not be such a pansy.
Yeah, I mean, this you're probably right. I mean, I was actually thinking about maybe starting a new workout routine or something, but
just some crunches, man, some squats.
Yeah. I was basically a vegetable this last week. It was awful. It was pretty awful. I mean, the good thing was I got to play Skyrim nonstop for like a week straight, which was pretty nice. So,
on my half, the reason why we didn't record last week was about the time we were going to record, I caught some kind of viral infection or something, and my throat has, from basically Friday to Monday, felt like it was within seconds of just completely locking up. And there were several times where I woke up in the middle of the night gasping for air.
Ugh, that sounds awful, man.
Yeah, so kind of like running around with a concave chest.
Yeah. So sorry, all you wonderful listeners. Both of us were in really shitty condition last week, so we could not record. Like, even though we did want to. We both were just. He was sicker than a dog, and I was literally paralyzed. So
had a great episode planned and everything. We're gonna have a special guest.
Yeah. We're gonna have strippers and
I was about to say some cocaine and hookers.
Yeah, we have a stripper pole in the studio right now. You guys might not realize it or believe it, but we actually record this in a studio together, and we just installed our brand new stripper pole, and we're ready to use it. We booked the hookers for last week and the strippers for the day after when we would actually record.
Got a kilo of the cocaines.
Yeah,
We were going to have a cocaine tasting party. Off of the butt of said hookers.
I mean, I could just.
We were gonna play some Pantera, and they were gonna get up and start swinging on their pole.
Yeah,
but I got to suck in some titty and.
He got sick, and I got paralyzed.
I got sick, and you were swinging that hammer around, and you got paralyzed.
I could swing around on this pole for you a little bit. What do you think, buddy? You think you'd like to?
Oh, that's hot. That's hot.
I could do a couple circles on the pole. Would you like that?
Just can you do the thing where you just kind of perch off of it upside down?
Yeah, let me just.
And then your boobs, your boobs kind of dangle on your chin.
Yeah, let me just kind of.
Oh, that's.
I gotta prop myself here.
Oh, that's hot.
Yeah. Do you like it? Do you like it when I tickle your nose with my toe? Do you like that?
Oh.
Yeah. Oh. Dude, can you hand me the pig fat? I gotta grease this thing a little bit.
all I've got is some cold beef tallow, but here.
Maybe some butter. Can you get me some butter?
Oh man, I'm straight out of butter. Got some Crisco.
Crisco works fine. Pass it over.
Okay, here you go, man.
I'm gonna lather my crotch first because that's gonna be the first part that touches the pole when I'm swinging on
it. White creamy crotch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. It's much better to swing around on this thing now. It's working out just fine.
You want to know? You want Uncle Lettuce to tell you a universal truth?
Sure, man. Sit me down on your lap, Unky Lettuce.
Oh, you just had to make it horrible. I was going to tell you that the lap dance is always better when the stripper is crying.
Oh, okay. I mean,
but now that you're on my lap, I don't want to say that.
It's okay. You can just
because you're kind of a bitch and you'll just start crying and then you're gonna have to ask me what's up, and I'm just gonna go ooh woo.
You can tickle my chin a little bit. That'd make me feel a little bit better. Make me less likely to cry.
Chin scritches.
Yeah, it's a little white chin. Yeah, right there.
Remember, Aunt Susan, totally straight over.
This might be one of the best openings we've done in quite some time, buddy. I guess we
Yeah.
we needed a week off. We needed a week off.
Content unrelated. This opening. This opening for yet another Core Keeper episode.
Clearly, man.
Oh man. Speaking of Core Keeper,
yeah.
I got my MacBook from my work.
Okay, nice.
So I'm now a daily driver of a new MacBook. I installed Steam. Oh, one of the things that my previous work laptop didn't do very well was play games because the HP driver set on the Intel integrated graphics not very good. So the computer crashed a lot trying to play games,
right?
Like any game. So I installed Steam on my MacBook and played, and then spent a lot of the weekend playing Undertale for Courtney, who I don't think was paying attention half the time. But, was doing a pacifist run for Undertale. But the Steam Link thing worked pretty well.
Okay.
So I also played a lot of Core Keeper on my MacBook.
Nice.
Synced up my PlayStation 4 controller to it, and it was good and did everything I needed it to do.
Nice. I mean, you know me, I've just been obsessively playing Skyrim, so
for all you gamer nerds out there, if you want a game on a Mac, buy a PC.
Yeah, right.
Install Steam on it. Install all your games onto the PC, and then stream off the PC to the Mac.
Yeah.
Very good. Actually, no, the Steam Remote Play, the graphic compression is still really horrible. Like any game that relies anything on graphic fidelity just isn't very good.
I remember trying to do the stream play one time, and I hated it.
I can see what, even with Core Keeper.
Yeah.
Because Core Keeper uses a lot of shaders and shadows.
Yeah.
Because, the only light source in the scene are the ones you lay down and then you. So there's a lot of shader effects. However, that's one thing that compression, the streaming compression engine really hates. So, yeah, that would make sense. So Core Keeper is a bunch of graphic. Like if you can ignore, if you're drunk enough and you can ignore it, you don't notice the shading artifacts. But if you are paying attention, whoo, do you ever see them?
Are they all like blocky?
Yeah, it gets really blocky.
Yeah, I had a feeling that would be the case. I've seen like bad shading before, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
No, Core Keeper has good shading effects.
No, I know that, but I mean,
because that's what half of the game is. If their shading effects was even like only merely adequate,
yeah,
dear God, that game would be horrible.
Yeah,
but they've got some really good shading effects because they have to have them.
Right.
The compression algorithm on Steam Remote Play is not the best in the world.
Yeah.
But I could play Undertale natively, and it worked pretty good. And there's actually a lot of surprising games that are Mac native at this point.
Yeah, I noticed that you have been playing a lot of Undertale lately. What got you back into it, or have you just never? Did you ever play it before?
No, I played it before, but it seemed like something. It seemed like something that might be Courtney's speed.
Oh, you've been playing it with Courtney?
She was laying in bed with me because I was laid out because of my throat, so I was laying in bed next to her, and I was like, "Hey, this is a game she might, be okay with." So, like, I played, and she paid attention for a little bit. Then she went off to do what she was doing,
right?
Because watching people play, she's not a kind of person who can just sit there and watch people play games. Very few people have the ability to sit and watch people play games for hours on end.
Oh, I love that shit. I love watching people play games of games that I'm never going to play myself. That's my Jimmy Jams. Like, because
Right.
if I'm going to play the game myself, then I don't want to watch other people play it. I just want to play it. But like, there's lots of games
Right.
where it's like, I want to know what happens in this game, but I don't want to play it to find out what happens in this game. So I'm just going to sit back and watch somebody else play it. Like, I love that, man. I love it. Because it's like games of like, you know, they're like movies now. It's like, you know, I don't even like movies anymore. Like I like watching anime and I like playing games and I like watching people play games and that's it. Like, you know.
So yeah, I was playing a lot of Undertale, doing a pacifist run.
Interesting. Well, I mean, that's like the normal way you're supposed to play it, right?
I mean, that's the way you're supposed to play it, but the genocide run is also as valid.
The genocide run is like really, really hard. It's the hardest way to play that game.
Well, it's the least rewarding.
Yeah. Well, it's
Like the
hard
game
as
goes,
balls too.
not really.
Well, I mean, like, there's the famous like Sans fight, right?
Oh well, yeah, the Sans fight
Bruh.
with you.
It's that's the balls to the wall fight. Like, no more screwing around. Like, let's like that's a hard fight, dude. That's a hard fight.
Pacifist Sans is hard. Genocide Sans is tedious.
I remember the fight against Sans where you're doing genocide run is like super hard.
Well, I don't know. I must be better at bullet hell fighters. The problem, though, the problem with the Sans fight in Genocide Run is that it's longer.
Oh.
Like he's like, okay, I want to put you in a position so that you just walk away and leave.
Right.
Not like, hey, I want to cut you down.
Mhm.
It's I want to put you in a position where you don't think you're ever going to win this, and you're going to walk away and leave.
Mhm. Right.
And the thing is you've also gone through the genocide missions, so all the NPCs know you're a video game basically in video game antagonist mode
Yeah.
or protagonist mode, and you're like, oh well, we're just not going to be around, and we're not going to, you know, we're not going to characterize ourselves for you just to end up dead.
Mhm.
So, so the game becomes more tedious because the intriguing story just goes away.
Right.
That's
Right, because you're killing off
what,
all the characters.
right. So that's
Yeah.
that's what Toby Fox's drawback to the genocide mode is.
Mhm.
Is you're going through the game with basically with like less of a story, because the characters who open up to you and realize you're not, you know, a bloodthirsty maniac. In the genocide run, you know, you are a bloodthirsty maniac, so they don't open up to you. They just run. They just kind of run away from you and hide and don't open up to you. So you don't get any characterization in your story. You get a story, but it's like as minimalistically told as possible.
Right.
Because that's what Toby Fox is trying to do. They're like, he's like, yeah, you're playing this game and you're doing it this way because you can,
Mhm.
but you now have to realize that you didn't have to, or you shouldn't have.
Mhm.
And the way I'm going to, you know, put this message across to you is I'm not going to give you an enjoyable experience.
Mhm.
So that is the contrast of playing the genocide mode. So yes, anybody who has never played Undertale, don't kill anybody your first run.
Yeah.
Your first run. Play the pacifist mode. That is the way you're supposed to experience the game.
Mhm.
You understand the characters, and the second you kill somebody, the game switches over to a non-good ending mode.
Yeah.
If you restart your game, the game remembers that you've killed somebody
Yeah,
in
and
the
it punishes
past,
you.
and it will never let you do the pacifist run again.
Yeah.
You're never on the pacifist run.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, the way to experience Undertale to its fullest, do the pacifist run, and then if you care, do the genocide run. Now the genocide run has kill requirements.
Mm-hmm.
In each level or each scene or each zone, you have to kill so many people. And the box is what tells you have to kill people. In the first zone, you don't get a box, so you just kind of have to know you have to kill like 20 people,
Mm-hmm.
including the zone boss. So yeah, that is my. If you've not played Undertale in the 7 years it's been out,
Change that shit.
that is my
Yeah.
that is my as less spoiler review as I'm ever going to give it.
Did you ever find any of the rare characters?
Oh yeah, no, I've done well.
Have you found like Gaster? Did you ever
Yeah,
find Gaster?
yeah. Like it's the rare characters aren't that hard to find if you're in pacifist mode.
Uh some of them are based on completely randomized chance. Like there's actually like an RNG that runs. Like there are certain locations where when you go into them, it runs like an RNG and
Of
it's
them being
like
there.
yeah. And
Yeah, no, I
one of them
understand.
is Gaster, who's like the rarest. He has like literally like a 0.000 some odd number of like appearing or something.
I guess I had a blessed run like my first or second time through
Yeah.
because I
He,
know I've seen them all.
he's like supposed to be like the mad doctor who's like experimenting with souls, and he's like the guy, if I remember correctly, the idea was he created Flowey or something like that. So it's pretty weird stuff. Um, it's a really deep game. It's a really like crazy deep game with all sorts of hidden secrets inside of it and stuff like
Yeah,
that. So if you're
if
into
you
that kind of
like,
stuff,
if you've played Earthbound,
yeah, that's a good comparison.
if you've played Earthbound,
Yeah.
you'll like and liked it. You'll definitely like Undertale.
There's a game that is been compared to Earthbound that I really want to play, but I keep forgetting. It went on sale a while ago, and then it came off sale, and I missed my chance to get it. I think it's called Omori. I think that's what it's called.
Hmm.
Let me check. Yeah, it's called Omori.
Yeah.
I have it on my wish list.
Oh, that's right. The
And
Steam Summer Sale is gone now.
yeah, it was on sale, and I thought about getting it, but at the time, oh, it's actually no, it's on sale right now. Oh, cool. Well, maybe I'll get it. It's
Oh,
only
that's
it's
cool. I thought the summer sale ended. No, the summer sale ends today.
yeah, maybe I should buy this.
Oh.
It's like $12.
Oh.
All right. Well, I will come back to this and I may buy it. I'm going to leave the page up so that I can think about it a little harder. I don't want to do it during the podcast, but yeah, so Omori is I've heard a lot of amazing stuff about it, and it's been compared to most commonly I've heard it compared to like Earthbound. Um and I also heard that it's got a very deep and sad story. It's supposed to be like really emotional, and it's supposed to be about like there's a lot of like warnings about it. Like I've heard lots of people say that like this is about depression and suicide and things like that, like all sorts of like sad subjects like that. Like I haven't had the game spoiled to me. Like I haven't watched anybody play it or anything because I was planning on getting it myself and playing it at some point. um but yeah, I've heard it compared to Earthbound. I heard it's really, really good, but I also heard it hits on a lot of really hard, heavy topics, and it's kind of difficult to get through because of that. But I want to play it.
What?
Hmm?
Oh, that's a cool. That's a interesting idea, possibly.
What?
No. I got to remain strong. So I went into the Square Enix version of the sale just to see what kind of crazy stuff they were offering, and
Yeah.
then their lead was the PC port of Final Fantasy VII Remake Retrograde
Okay.
for $50.
Huh.
But I have promised myself I'm not playing that game until it's completed,
Right.
which means I won't play that game until I'm like 70.
Okay.
Because this is the Square Enix we're talking about, and their release schedule is weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
Final Fantasy X and X2 are $15.
Sure. I mean, I'm not really interested in replaying them. They're good games. They are good games, but I'm not.
They are actually the best Final. Well, X is the best Final Fantasy game.
Well, I mean, it's a great game.
I'm willing to go out there and say 10 is probably the best Final Fantasy. Well, best mainline Final Fantasy game.
See,
if you consider, the 1 through 15, the mainline games, not including the MMOs.
Well, because so I'm a person who believes that my top 3, like I have like my top 3. My number 1 slot is given to Final Fantasy VI. I think that is the best Final Fantasy game ever made.
6 is number 2 for me.
6 is my number 1. And I know that like we've talked about this so many times. I know it's very controversial. I know that lots of people like to get all up in my face about it, but I think Final Fantasy 12 is like the second best Final Fantasy game I've ever played. I don't give
I like a Star Wars New Hope too.
Sure. You know what? Live that life, dude. Be that person. That's fine. I love that game.
Be what person? The person, the everybody who realizes that the game is just basically another retelling.
Whatever. I don't give
Star Wars New Hope.
Sure, man. As a person who is not a fan of Star Wars, I love Final Fantasy 12, and I don't give a fuck what anybody says about it.
I mean, anime. If anime titties is what it takes to make Star Wars: A New Hope more palatable for you, then rock
whatever, man. Fine,
rock on.
Cool, whatever. I love Final Fantasy 12, and I don't give a shit about what anybody says about it, because I have had so many people tell me that it's a shit game, and I'm like, I don't give a fuck. I love it. I love Final Fantasy 12. I love that game, and nobody's going to change my mind about it. And then
It's. I mean, I'm not going to say it's a shit game, because Final Fantasy 13 exists.
That's the worst. That is literally the worst Final Fantasy game I've ever played.
But I mean, 12 is pretty. In my opinion, 12 is pretty mid.
I think it's like the best. I think it's like the second best Final Fantasy game I've ever played. I adore that game. I adore it.
I have to put 12. I honestly have to put 12 behind 8 and 7. And tactics. Tactics advance.
The thing that I love about the reason why I love Final Fantasy 12 so much is because, first of all, there's so many things I love about it. The story's good, okay? Sure, Star Wars, whatever, live that life, I don't care. Story's good, whatever. Okay, there's so many things I love about it. First of all, I love the dungeon-style sandboxes. So, obviously, it's not a full sandbox game, but it's like a dungeon crawling style game where each map is, fairly large, and you can run around in it. And there's, hidden secrets, and there's other hidden maps behind, other secret areas. There's, I loved and I know, people want to be like, oh, well, it's just a shit port copy of, the battle system from whatever bullshit game that people like to say it's a port of, but I loved the free battle system where you just run around and there are just monsters that are just wandering, and you don't go into a random battle that just appears by running on the map randomly. I like the fact that all the enemies, you can see exactly where they're located, and you can choose to run up and fight them, or you can choose to run away from them or do other things. I loved that. I loved the grid system. I love the fact that even though every character starts out with a basic set of skills, they're all basically blank slates. You can make them into whatever you want them to be. I love that. I don't like they're but like, you know, you got to have your character that's your stereotypical white mage character that can only do stereotypical white mage things. Oh, you need your stereotypical like beefy sword guy who only does stereotypical beefy sword guy. Bitch, if I want my white mage to sling a fucking two-handed greatsword, let me do that, okay? Like, if my whole party wants to wield white magic so that if my main white mage character goes down, I still have characters that can bring my white mage back to life. I love that. I loved having the freedom of choice in that. And Final Fantasy XII is one of the only games of the main franchise that I've seen really do that. And I loved it. And then
13 does it.
Whatever. 13's a piece of shit for so many reasons. I don't give a shit about what they're doing that's even close to Final Fantasy 12, okay? And then,
I mean, most of the stuff that you're letting Final Fantasy 12 for is the back half of Final Fantasy 13.
Final Fantasy 13 is, like, I hated that game. I hate
it. Everybody hates Final Fantasy 13.
If Final Fantasy 12 did exactly the same thing in Final Fantasy 13, then I'm just going to go ahead and say that Final Fantasy 12 did it better. Like, if that's the point you're trying to make.
Well, no. The problem, everybody hated Final Fantasy 13 because the story was shit.
Well, also, the whole game is on tracks until, like, 20 hours into the game.
Right. After 20 hours, it becomes Final Fantasy 12 again.
But you're on... Yeah, and
that's why everybody hates 13 because it puts a mid game, it puts a very average Final Fantasy game behind an on rails like terrible story exposition, like linear hallway, terrible like story exposition for like 20 hours, and they're like, okay, oh, you want to play Final Fantasy like a free roaming RPG with you know interesting like open maps and stuff. Okay, we're gonna give that to you, but first, for the first 20 hours, you're gonna have to sit through all this bullshit that we're going to Haunted Carnival ride you through.
Well, and another thing that I want to say though is that like I don't remember anything. Like I definitely got to the 20-hour mark of Final Fantasy 13, and then I just stopped caring. And the thing is that I'm going to go ahead and say this. I don't remember anything about Final Fantasy 13. I don't remember the story. I barely remember any of the characters. There were no boss fights that stuck out to me. But like Final Fantasy 12, I remember so much about that game. I remember some of the hardest boss battles that I did in that game, and beating them felt amazing. And some of them were optional.
Some of those boss battles were bullshit.
Dude, there are some boss battles in Final Fantasy 12 that are beloved to me because I remember them so well because they were so different. There's one that I remember doing that was so goddamn difficult, and it wasn't even part of the main game. It was a secret hidden boss.
Oh yeah, no. But the power jump in some of those boss fights, like you're looking at it and you're like, oh, I was supposed to grind here, wasn't I?
Yeah. I remember fighting Tiamat, and Tiamat was an insane fight in Final Fantasy 12. It was so insane.
Oh yeah, no. Final Fantasy 12 caused me to say this boss fight in particular.
Yeah.
More times than I can count.
Yeah. There's some boss fights in that game like that for sure. And like
some
of them are mandatory, most of them are optional.
I mean, no, it's not a bad thing either.
Yeah.
Like having difficult boss fights in an RPG is typically like the only is in a lot of Japanese RPGs that is literally your own saving grace.
Yeah.
My problem with the battle system is I played Final Fantasy 11 and Final Fantasy 12's battle system was basically Final Fantasy 11's combat system, where they had to make up for the fact that you didn't have other player characters online.
And I can see based on the way that you're explaining it that you really didn't like that. I loved the battle system in Final Fantasy 12. I loved
Yeah,
it.
no. Like
I
it
loved it.
was.
I loved it.
No. It was. If you never played Final Fantasy, if you never played Final Fantasy, if you never played Final Fantasy 11, I could see where this it would be fresh, and it would be interesting, and it would be great. If you never played Final Fantasy 11, it's interesting, it's fresh. It was a new change on the genre because at that point you went from
Random battles.
You went from random
You had
battles
no
in 10.
control over.
Yeah, you went random battles in 10, pure menu driven. With like 10's battle system was weird because it tried doing the thing that 8 did, but didn't do it very well.
I never played 8.
Like the quick time events in the middle of the battle to try to power up your attacks.
Okay.
10 did more of that, but to be perfectly honest, it was the worst part of the 8 combat system. So I don't know why 10 decided to just throw more on it. So you went from the 10 battle system straight to 11 or straight to 12, having never played 11. 12 is greatly inferior. 12's battle system is greatly superior to 10's battle system.
Yeah,
I will give it that. I will give it that. The problem is I went from playing like 11 religiously to playing 12, and I'm like, okay, so this is the 11 combat system. If I replace intelligent online players with online players, if they were scrubs, but we're mediocre, but we're passively good at following instructions, because that's what you had. What ended up happening is you spent a lot of time tweaking your AI's.
I was about to say
a
major part of Final Fantasy 12's I would even say it's literally an integral part of the gameplay. Learning how to tweak the AI.
You have to do anything in that game.
I literally remember I literally had one day where I spent hours tweaking the perfect AI for my gambits, on Final Fantasy 12. I spent hours doing it, and after a while of much trial and error, I perfected it, which is why I was saying earlier that my whole party were healers. Every member of my team was a healer to some degree or another.
Yeah, because you programmed to do it.
Yeah, but that's how you did it, because
right.
Because let me tell you, Tiamat is not going down unless every goddamn member of your team is a healer.
Yeah. So my problem, however, is if you didn't know or weren't prepared to spend a lot of time in the AI menu, you had a bad time with that game.
All right. Well, but at that point, everybody's opinion on what game's the best is subjective. My opinion's subjective, and so is yours, right? That's what it comes down to, I'm sure.
Right. But but the thing is okay, so
you had a worse experience than I did.
I don't know. I think I have I know a little bit about UI design and software design.
So then your opinion is better than my opinion, is what you're saying.
Well, yeah.
Okay, man.
Yeah, I'm coming in from a position these are some really awkward decisions that they made game design wise, because not a lot of people consider sitting around tweaking a spreadsheet fun. Granted, those people are out there, and I guess a lot of them play JRPGs, so they got away with it. I'm just saying there's not a lot of people who would sit around and make that same decision.
Right. Well,
and it's probably for the best.
The thing is that a lot of the time when you're doing that stuff, it's just because you have to, and you kind of like learn to get invested into it based on what you're trying. It's kind of like I think here's the best way to kind of think about it. Um, Tweaking the AI for hours on end, nonstop, is like doing deck design for Magic the Gathering or any card game. It's the same concept. Like there are tons of people who genuinely enjoy deck building. And a part of it is that if you don't have the ability to be comfortable with deck building, then you can't play the game that the deck is being built for, right? I mean, you can just slap random shit together, but I mean, if you have like a good idea of like what you want to play and what you want to do, you're going to have to spend hours doing proper deck design, right? It's the same concept in like games like Final Fantasy 12 or whatever.
Right.
And I mean, I would even argue that I play many games that do that same concept. Like for example, like I'm playing Skyrim. I was talking about how I was playing a lot of Skyrim. I spend hours and hours on end every single day when I'm playing that game. Inventory management, making sure that all the right items are going in all the right places, you know, making sure like what skills are going to be placed properly in order to do what specific thing I want them to do, like what spells in what organization, what key bindings do they have, like, you know, what items are placed in this container at the maximum convenience, you know, like which books are going to be the most useful at any particular given time, like which weapon goes in what slot, you know, like there's tons and tons of games that do that kind of stuff, and there's many people who genuinely enjoy doing that kind of stuff. Like,
okay. So tell me when you're done. By the way,
I'm basically done, I guess.
Oh no, go ahead and finish. I want your full thought out there.
Well, it's just like I never like. I mean, it's not like the main point of playing the game, but like I enjoy deck building. I enjoy character design. Like, I mean, I enjoy, you know, coming up with interesting strategies and then building them exactly to how they're supposed to function and then enacting them afterwards. And it's like, it's fun to build it because then you have more fun when you get to see it function, you know? So, like, doing the navigation of the NPC AI was kind of fun for me because it was interesting to figure out what worked and what didn't work, which was genuinely enthralling. And, you know, even just running around on the grid system for skills in Final Fantasy 12 was also interesting, like unlocking new parts of the grid system and being like, oh, like if I, you know, push further into this side, I can like combo it with this side that I've already unlocked or whatever, but I have to like work for it and, you know, get these skill points or whatever. So, I mean, you know, like I do get your point, but at the same time, I definitely know that there are lots of people who genuinely enjoy that kind of stuff because we literally have games like Magic that have an integral part of playing the game as design, you know, like,
Okay.
you know, strategy design. So that's kind of my point.
I agree. Okay, so you are correct. However, in Magic, they do give players the ability to play the game without having to trifle through deck design.
Well, if you want to like go and buy like, you know, a beginner deck, sure. Like
Okay,
a pre-made, you know, a pre-designed.
Yeah, a pre-made deck.
Sure.
You fire up Arena and they give you 12 pre-made decks to play at your leisure. Sure. You're not forced to learn how to complete a game of Magic. You are never forced to learn how to deck build. Magic hopes that at some point you learn how to deck build and you kind of accept that a very minimal amount of deck build and deck design is necessary to continue playing the game and to progress in the game in the way they want you to progress.
Right.
But they never hold your head underwater and say, learn how to deck build, bitch. And other games like Skyrim.
The thing is, too, though, is that the majority of their business is built on the hope and like concept that you're into optimization.
Yeah, no, that I mean that too. But
the pre-mades are kind of purposely designed to be shitty so that you'll be obsessed with the idea of diving into optimization because that's where they make their money.
if you're some person who just refuses to let go of that crutch, they're going to constantly provide you with a way to give them money. Like, they'll sell you pre-made decks all the time. Challenger decks, commander decks, any, like, if there is a way that they can sell you a really crummy pre-made deck for like a 75% inflation rate, Wizards of the Coast Magic the Gathering is none too happy to provide that service for you.
Sure.
Actually, and in some cases, it is more expensive to refuse to learn to deck build. So, Magic the Gathering doesn't hold your head under the water and tell you to deck build. They kind of want you to learn to deck build because it is kind of more conductive to they would much rather you buy, 3 packs a week, and instead of waiting once every 6 months to buy a $75 deck. They would much rather have you that customer, but they're more than happy for you to be the buy the $80 deck once every 3 months. They're more than happy to let you be that person because that's $80 instead of $0 they got from you.
Yeah.
Because that means you're still in the game. That means that means there's still a chance that they've hooked you. You mentioned inventory management in Skyrim. And I agree with you.
Yeah.
And no, a big point of yours was like the time you spent inventory management in Skyrim.
Well, and skill management as well. Like, I actually, there was a couple of nights ago where I literally sat in front of my character for joke 3 or 4 hours trying to figure out the perfect way to like set up my skills. And I did the same thing when I was trying to figure out how to do like build the perfect like enchanted weapon as well.
There's some people there are some people who get a kick out of that. Can you also not just start a character in Skyrim, choose to be a Khajiit rogue who specializes in crouching while shooting a bow and arrow, and go through and do everything in the game, just stealth striking enemies. So stealth rogue go burr.
Sure. These games do in fact provide options for multiple different types of player bases, specifically for the purpose of attracting a very wide audience of multiple different kinds of players.
Hey.
Yes.
Okay, so my contention is you can't play Final Fantasy 12 with never touching that AI menu, but it does so much it goes really far out of its way. To keep you from being able to do that.
No, I got a perfect counterpoint, because you are right. There is a roadblock eventually, but you know what? I actually have a very distinct memory of when I was a kid rage quitting Final Fantasy X because I was roadblocked, because it had a point where it basically stopped me from making any form of progression in the game. Like, what would happen? Because, like, for example, I assume the point you're trying to make is in Final Fantasy 12, if you don't go the route of customizing your AI or doing any of that stuff, you hit a roadblock where you literally just run into enemies that brick wall you. That's your point, right? Like, that's
for the most part, yeah.
Okay. I have a very distinct memory of rage quitting Final Fantasy. I had to like come back to the game later when I was a young adult and finally beat it. And when I say young adult, I was just starting college. I think I was about 20 years old when I came back to Final Fantasy X and actually went all the way through it and beat it. But as a kid, when I first got Final Fantasy X, because yes, Final Fantasy X was in fact the very first Final Fantasy game I ever played. Okay. I even though I adore Final Fantasy VII, I played that afterwards. I played that later.
You're young.
Not so 7, 6. 6 is what I meant. Sorry.
You're young, so that's these things are to be expected. So just go ahead and carry on.
Okay. So as a kid, Final Fantasy X, first Final Fantasy game I ever played. Love it. I think it's fun. I get to the very first Sin Spawn boss battle. Do you remember when Sin comes through and he craps off all of his talons or whatever, or his scales, and they hit the ground and they kind of turn into these monsters and you have to fight them? And
Mm-hmm.
it's about the midway of the beginning of the game, I want to say. Like, I
Yeah.
want to say it's like when you're at the end of the beginning of the game and you're getting into the midway point. That brick walled me. It absolutely brick walled me. And for the life of me as a kid, I could not understand why, no matter what I did, no matter what I did, no matter how I tried to fight it, it always murdered my face. All my party would always die every single time to that major boss battle in the very beginning of the game. And I got so angry that I quit the game. And and this was when I was a kid. Like, this was shortly after Final Fantasy X came out, brand new, brand spanking new as a game, and I picked it up as a kid because everybody was talking about it. I rage quit it and didn't come back until I was 20 years old. And while I was playing through the game, I learned why I got brick walled. And the reason why was because I didn't understand how the orb grid system functioned. It made no sense to me as a kid. And I didn't know how to invest in the orb grid system or put all my orbs in the correct place or unlock the correct skills or do any of that. And you know what? When you don't know how that functions, and you fight that first major boss in the beginning of the game, you get brick walled. Because I remember that shit super clearly.
Because
and I mean, obviously,
because you didn't pay attention to the sphere grid tutorial.
Because it didn't make any sense to me. And I did go, I don't even remember if it did make sense to me as a kid, but at that time, I just didn't utilize it and I didn't understand it. And I got brick walled because of it. And then as a 20-year-old going through from the beginning all the way to the end, it made sense. And when I got to that boss fight, it was a piece of cake because I knew exactly for sure how to tactically design my setup to be able to surpass that first boss. So my point is that even Final Fantasy X, which you consider to be the best Final Fantasy game, it can brick wall you if you don't know how to do that strategy management. So Final Fantasy X and Final Fantasy XII do still have the same particular issues. It'll brick wall you if you don't understand that stuff. And if you don't want to participate in it, you get brick walled. And then you have to turn off the game and you can't come back to it until you learn to understand it.
Okay, so you didn't quite understand the sphere grid tutorial, which I'll grant you that if you are under the age of 14,
which I was at the time, the first time I ran through it.
If you are under the age of 14, that tutorial is not the most child friendly thing in the world. And actually, to be perfectly honest, that system is also not the most child friendly thing in the world. My counterpoint to that is the tutorial for what winds up being 75% of your game strategy is sitting there inside the AI programming.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty bare bones. It probably wasn't meant for children, but I'm going to go ahead and argue that
neither was the grid system for Final Fantasy X.
Well, no, the grid system for Final Fantasy X, but I'm also gonna argue neither was the draw system from 8.
Well, sure, but that's a game that I like. You know what? All Final Fantasy games are not made for children. How about that? How about we just settle on the idea that all Final Fantasy games are complicated, have some particular degree of complication that requires you to sit down, understand what it's doing, and learn and manage it. And if you don't, you get brick walled, and then you have to quit because you can't progress any further.
Okay, no, so that was this is half my point. JRPGs are not something for kids under the age of 15.
Okay.
Especially for kids who have who their first JRPG is Final Fantasy Tactics.
I think that
Oh
overall,
dear,
it's
oh
just.
dear God! I'd like to meet the 8-year-old who sits around and who's just like, yeah, Final Fantasy Tactics, I'm game.
I love Tactics, but
Like,
that's because that game is literally what I love, which is strategy optimization.
okay, that's a turn-based strategy RPG,
I love.
not and it's a wonderful. Tactics is a wonderful game, and I wish Square Enix would make more of them. But that's neither here nor there.
When I was
So
when I was
I'm,
originally
I'm
listing off my top three, advanced Final Fantasy Tactics Advanced is my number three. So I got stopped on 12 because we got into this huge discussion, but I was going to go
right.
ahead and put that out there.
So my contention with 12, their new gimmick, they typically do a good job of easing you into the new gimmick, and it usually takes you 2 to 3 games.
Mm-hmm.
Or 2 games for them to like really crunch into that gimmick. And my problem with 12 is they kind of assumed that this was game 2 of that gimmick. But if people who didn't play 11 because they didn't want to play an MMO, they didn't realize what again, it took me a little bit to realize, oh shit, I'm playing an MMO where I'm training my party members. Once that little bell, flicked on for me,
Yeah.
then I'm like, okay, so I'm babysitting my guild mates in my MMO.
Well, I mean, but I'm a person who's never played Final Fantasy 11. So I'm literally the exact person that you're targeting with your statement.
Which is why
And
I don't
I understood
understand,
it great.
which is why I don't. Oh, I mean, you understood it great because you were like, oh, strategy management.
Yeah.
Because I'm assuming you played Tactics Advanced before you played
Final Fantasy 12. Absolutely.
before you played Final Fantasy 12.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm assuming you did that. So you had an entry pair. You had an entry port. The problem is they didn't do a good job of explaining that that's what you were doing in 12.
In Final Fantasy 12, a lot of it is experimentation. It's a lot of trial and error, for sure.
Yeah,
I'm not going to argue that.
Yeah, they didn't do a good job of explaining that thing. And the problem is you end up spending a lot of time in that particular menu. Because not only do you have to, check and double check, you have to revisit it basically once every 10-15 minutes because your situation is going to change, so you got to make sure your AI is changed.
I wouldn't agree with that 100% because I definitely remember that there were points where what would happen is I would unlock basically new AI commands, and then I would have to figure out if I would need to optimize it. And then usually what I distinctly remember is this is from my memories of playing this. The last time I played Final Fantasy 12 was actually back in 2016. That was the last time I played it. Which was I made it all the way to the end game, but I actually never beat it. I have beaten the game before, but I was playing it I was basically doing a revisitation in 2016 for funsies.
Right.
And I was trying all sorts of new things that I hadn't tried, which made it a lot more fun. And I made it all the way to the end game, but I never actually beat it. But the thing is that what would happen is you would kind of like get some new options for optimization. And then you would kind of like experiment and look around and try and figure out, does this work? Does it not work? If it doesn't, throw it away. If it does, then you utilize it. And then you would basically spend like a large portion of time, like a few hours trying to optimize it. Then you would have to like go into a few battles, see how that works out, come back and tweak it or not tweak it. And then usually when you have it fully optimized, it would basically you could run autopilot on that for a large portion of gameplay until you meet like the new major big bad. And that's usually when you have to come back and reevaluate what it is. So I wouldn't say it's every 10 or 15 minutes unless you're doing some really shisty strategies. Usually it's like what usually happens is you get into an area
Oh, I don't
Bruh.
around. I run straight. I run through those bitches and hoes.
Usually what happens is you run into an area that you're going to be spending a long time in, or like a set of areas because it's a dungeon crawler style.
Right.
Where each dungeon is like kind of like a mini sandbox. And basically during those series, like you'd be on a particular mission or on a particular story quest or whatever. And during those times that you would be running through those sets of maps, there's one primary optimal strategy that you're going to be using for probably a few hours or longer. And that strategy is just going to get you through the whole time, with a few times where maybe the numbers will change, like it'll be a larger group, or maybe it'll be like one of the unique species, and you might have to change it up, or you might have to, like, because a lot of the time you could just run in and they'll just autopilot all the way through. But then every once in a while, either it'll be a large group, or if it's like a unique species, you have to actually, you're like, okay, I have to turn off the AI of this one character and be hands on because you don't know what kind of shit they're going to pull. But usually it's smooth and it's fine. But
Right.
then you get to the end of that series of maps, which is, maybe a few hours or so. And then you get to the big boss and you're like, okay, well, this strategy is optimal right now, but I'm probably going to have to change it. But I got it. But I don't know what the boss is going to do. So I'm going to run in. I'm going to let him literally wail on me so that I can, because I have to literally lose to like know what to change, because that's
Right.
how it runs.
You got to know what he's going to do to you so that you know how to so you know how to prepare for it.
Exactly. And then usually it'll be either option A, I didn't have to worry and the team worked fine as they are, so there's no optimization, or the boss murders my entire team. I was hopefully paying attention to every single thing that monster was doing and utilizing, and then now I go back into the AI menu and I optimize my team for battling it. Then I go again and either once again option A I win, or option B I'm wailed on again, but there's something new that I learned, and then lather, rinse, repeat.
I mean, I guess I'm a bit more micromanagey than you.
Are you always hands on, like with every fight?
Not with every fight, but inside of a dungeon, you'll have a group or two
Right.
that you can kind of handle the same way. But then you come across the third group that's probably going to require a small tweak. I'm going to go ahead and do the small tweak if I see it coming. And with Final Fantasy 12, you saw it coming. What I would do is I would make the small. I would go in, make the small tweaks. I wouldn't be spending 30 minutes in that menu. I'd be spending 10.
It sounds
Just making directive small tweaks to clear through a boss, to clear through a small group of mobs. But then I'd come across the next one. I would make a decision call. Well, do I need to make a small tweak here? Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and make that small tweak. So, like, I'm constantly making small tweaks.
I see. You're not trying to optimize so that you can run through them all. You're basically learning as you're going and changing as you're going.
Well, I'm not trying to run through them all. I'm trying to ace every single mob group that I'm coming across. I'm trying to take as least amount of damage as possible.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I was doing for. So I was taking, I'm spending less time in that menu than most people do.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time in those menus.
Like, if I'm going to that menu, I kind of had a directive idea because I came from playing tactics. So, like, I'm like, okay, I have this party member available. I have these party members available to me. So which party? What party? So what's my party layout look like? Okay, this. What kind of options do I have to tweak? I always had that kind of in the back of my head because the draw system taught me kind of how to micromanage a little bit better than
Okay.
So what I would end up doing is trying to minimize my risk. So that's what I was tweaking for, was just minimalizing risk. If I can minimize my risk, I can go through without expending a lot of resources. So, but what I ended up doing was making more trips in that menu, but making more smaller trips in that menu. But I found myself constantly going to that menu and it's just like I realized I'm in that menu, and I'm like,
You're in it all the time is basically what you're saying is your
yeah, it's
experience.
like
See,
my experience. My experiences is like I'm in that menu almost all the time,
yeah.
and it got to the point where I was in that menu more than I felt like I was playing the game.
Hmm.
Because I didn't consider that because I like even for games right now where if I'm doing menu management, like unless the game is called super ultra mega menu management deluxe, extreme, I don't consider spending time in that menu
Hmm.
to be time where I'm playing the game. And to be perfectly honest, Square really has never made the best feeling UI menus.
Well, so two things I was going to say. So the first thing I'm going to say is I play a phone game that I adore. That's basically menu management simulation. So that should speak to me as what kind of player I am. Because like I'm not going to lie about it. Like a lot of the gameplay is me navigating menus on that game on my phone, and I adore it. But ignoring that, it's an appeal for a particular type of player for a specific kind of gaming experience.
Yeah,
And
yeah. But the problem is it was such a shift for Final Fantasy that even me, who's an experienced MMO player, going from 11 to 12. See, I went to 12 thinking, "Oh, great! I don't have to babysit a
Bruh.
randos," which was my mistake.
yeah. Well, and the thing is, I was going to say too, the second point I wanted to make is that it sounds like what you're telling me is you had a unique player experience with the game. Because, like, what I explained that my experience was is I would spend a long time working in the menu optimizing. And then I would exit the menu and then go on a long run of just battling and doing things because I didn't need to constantly be in that menu because I had created what was optimal. And usually I would only have to tweak it when there would be a unique style of battle, like a larger mob, or a unique monster, which is like a special version of a mob, or we would move on to the next major boss, which would change up all the strategies. But
Right,
usually, I would spend a whole bunch of time in the menu, and then I would just be able to go and slide through all the fights, which is how I liked it. It sounds like, and that was a unique experience for me playing the game. Your unique experience for you playing the game is you constantly going in and out of the menu, optimizing with each battle. And that's how you played it, and that's how you chose to play it. But I chose to play it a different way, which is
right, right.
why I think my experience was better.
I mean, I mean, you're probably right. Like, I guess if I didn't have to make so many different menu calls, possibly it wouldn't have been as noticeable to me. But one of the things I'd be curious to see is who spent more time in that menu.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, because I definitely have memories of being in those menus, but a lot of my favorite memories of that game were actual playable experiences. Like, I remember, like I said, I remember the Tiamat fight. I remember the what was it? The
I remember being Han saving Leia.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I also like I remember the Tiamat fight very well because that one wrecked me a lot. I remember that fight very
Oh
clearly.
yeah,
I remember,
yeah,
Bruh.
that fight. Yeah,
yeah. I remember. I can't remember the character's name, but there was a boss fight that it's like it's a hidden summon character, and he's basically the Aeon of Death, and he's like a skeleton face character, and he has like a woman on his back, like attached to his back. He's really scary looking, and I remember that fight so well because that dude wrecked me over and over and over again. God, that fight was so difficult. And I remember it so well. I just can't remember the name of the goddamn character. But it was one of the summonable Aeons you can get in the game if you beat him, I also remember the fight with God, I wish I could remember all these names. I remember Kuklane. Kuklane was one of my favorite fights, but that's because I actually he wasn't super difficult to beat, but he was really cool when you beat him and then you get to use him because he's really powerful. And I remember like hunting down some of the legendary weapons. I remember some of the unique dungeons and like going into the bar and like getting like a special secret quest to go and find like a secret area that isn't attached to the main story. Like I remember all that stuff so well and I had such a fun time. Like I'm sure that I did spend a lot of time in the menus, but they're not like plastered to my brain as major memories of playing and enjoying the game. Like I just my thing is I'm very defensive about Final Fantasy 12 because I feel like everybody like people want to argue with me about it being a bad game all the time. So I get really defensive about Final Fantasy 12 because I love it. I love that game.
You have a tendency to be defensive about the shit you like.
Yeah, I know.
But I'm not over here saying it's a bad game because I've played Final Fantasy 2, I've played Final Fantasy 13, I've played Final Fantasy 3.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not gonna say
Final Fantasy 3 is bad. I forgot about that. Yeah. I even remember playing that when they re-released it on the DS. God, that game was so bad.
Oh yeah, no,
so bad.
Like, yeah, just like this is horrible. What you doing?
I even remember selling it back to GameStop, and normally I don't do that. Like I don't resell my games.
It's like I'll take. It's like I played this game for 2 minutes. It is terrible. Can I have $5 back?
Oh no, I beat Final Fantasy 3. I tortured myself, and I remember getting to the end of that game, and I was just like, that's it? Like, that's why I suffered through this? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, get wrecked, nerd.
Oh man.
It's
so boring.
Like, I'm not going to say Final Fantasy 12 is bad. It's why I very specifically say Final Fantasy 12 is mid. Only because I saw what Final Fantasy became.
I don't know what that's supposed to mean.
Well, 13, 13, 2, 13, 3.
Oh, okay. So you're saying that, like, you say it's mid because you've seen. So the idea is Final Fantasy was 12 was bad to you until you saw Final Fantasy 13, is what you're saying.
Well, yeah, basically, I was like 12 after 10. 12 after 10 and 11, be specifically, was very much a letdown. But then I saw how far that crater can go.
Yeah.
Because because I played 3, I played 3-2, I played 3-3.
I only remember it as one game, but I played Final Fantasy 3 on. They re-released it on the DS.
I mean, not 3. I meant 13. I played 13. Okay. I played 13-2. I played 13-3. I've played every Final Fantasy game.
I never beat Final Fantasy 13. I was like, this game sucks. I'm over it. Like,
oh, I didn't beat it because I got to the 40-hour mark, and I'm like,
same here.
I'm like, yeah, no, none of this is interesting.
Yeah.
And then I stopped playing it. And then I played the sequel because it's Final Fantasy and ooh, shiny. And then I'm like, oh, it's still not very interesting. And then I played 13. And then I played 13-3, and I was like, I got to keep playing these games because we might get that really. Because that was about the time where the Final Fantasy 13 Versus came out. Trailer was like hitting. And I was like, I really want that game. So I'll buy this game and hope that game comes.
Right. After Final Fantasy 13 and like I gave up on it because I was like, this game sucks. I was basically like, oh look, it's Final Fantasy 13 too. Not playing it because it's got Final Fantasy 13 in the name. It's got that cursed number, so definitely not. But
well, see, the thing is like, I was one of the few people who thought 10-2 wasn't horrible.
I never played 10-2.
Okay,
I've never played.
So
it.
I was one of the people who thought I didn't think 10-2 was horrible. I kind of like the mission structure a little bit, which kind of explains why I like Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2 days.
Okay.
Because it uses kind of the same mission structuring.
Okay.
I kind of like the mission structure for that, and I kind of like where they took the story.
Okay.
Even though it meant that I don't get to play, don't get to have Lulu in my. I don't get to play with Lulu much. We just get to visit her.
Lulu and the gravity equation.
As she's all knocked up with Waka's stuff.
Ugh.
Show me your stuff. Of all the
people.
Of all the people, but let's make it does make sense.
Whatever.
Like you don't you didn't want it, but it's like, yeah, she kind of like, I mean, she had a thing for Waka's brother. So the next best thing, I guess, is Waka.
She's getting diet Waka brother.
Yeah, she's getting diet Jakku.
Diet Jakku, was that his name?
Yeah, that's Waka's brother's name. It's like she can't get any real Jakku, so she's got to get Diet Jakku.
The best part is that sounds like an actual like soda.
Great value Jakku. Jaka.
Store brand.
Great value Jaka. But anyway, man. so like, I didn't hate X2 off the face of it.
Sure.
And, at the time, I'm a, younger man who appreciates being a fan who gets fan serviced.
Sure.
So I like the fan service aspect of X2.
Yeah, it's like the infamous like anime beach episode.
Yeah,
Final Fantasy.
Yeah, it's a Final Fantasy dress 'em up game.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Like, I'm not beyond being fan serviced.
Hey man, I mean, I play Skyrim with booby mods and I dress my little lady up all the time, so I feel it. Like, it's okay, man.
Yeah, no. So like, it wasn't
real men play with dress up girls in their video games.
Yeah, real men love boobies.
Yeah, we do.
Let's be real.
And cute outfits. We like them in cute outfits too.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, the cute outfits have to accentuate the bubble teeth.
Yes, indeed.
So I didn't hate X2.
Sure.
But so I played 13.2 and I played 13.3, and they were all horrible. And then I played 14. I was in the 14 beta. Then I was in the 14 beta.
Oh yeah, that's the homo slap, right?
Yeah, that was the next MMO. Well, see, the thing is, I loved 11, so I was like, oh, another Final Fantasy MMO. I mean, they could just keep making 11, but apparently they had a better idea. Let's see what that idea was.
Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. Final Fantasy 14 is the MMO.
14 is the. No, 15 is
15 is homo slap.
15 was the result of me buying 13.3.
Right.
Because Versus 13 became 15.
Right.
So 14 was the MMO, was the second MMO, and I was like, okay, fine. Another Final Fantasy MMO. 11 was good. More 11, I'm on board.
Do you still play 14?
No. And here's the funny thing. I haven't played 14 since the beta closed. They played the beta. They were like, they closed the beta and they were like, we're going to start the normal game. And I'm be like, you really ought not do that. And they're like, come in this one. I'm like, no, thank you. And then a month later, they're like, we're going to shut down this game and fix it. And it took them 6 months to fix everything.
Well, supposedly it's considered to be one of the greatest MMOs currently out right now. Like, I mean,
Well,
it's a
yeah,
big
but that's
deal.
only. Well, I mean, that's only because Blizzard has let World of Warcraft die.
Yeah, but also from a very large audience of people that are, pretty like it's considered to be a really well designed game. Like, I can't give my opinion because I haven't played it at all, but I
Yeah,
have a very good friend who
these
plays
are
it
these
obsessively.
these are the people who will play any MMO.
I don't know about that. I do. Actually,
Most
now
of
that I think about it, that friend that I was talking about, she's a retired World of Warcraft player. So
yeah, these are
maybe
the
you're right.
people. These are the people who will play any MMO. Most of them are looking for something to take away from the boring bullshit that was WoW.
Mhm.
These are the people who went from EverQuest to WoW to WoW to WoW to WoW.
Wow,
Went
EverQuest
to
is something I haven't thought about in a long time.
went to Star Wars Galaxies. Went back to WoW.
When does Hello
Went to
Kitty Island Adventure get into this list? When does that
went to
happen?
went to. Damn it! Damn it! It was coming. You just got to be patient. Went to City of Heroes.
Uh-huh.
Went back. Went to Star Wars: The Old Republic. Went back. Played the Conan MMO. Went back to WoW. Played Hello Kitty Island Adventure.
The
Went
best
back.
MMO ever made.
Played, dabbled in Maple Story for a little bit. Realized Koreans can't make an MMO, and then went back to WoW. These are people who would the people who are in Final Fantasy 14, who are now at, like, calling Final Fantasy 14 the best thing ever,
Yeah.
are the people who have been spending their whole life trying to find something that isn't World of Warcraft because they hate to be the normie who's like, yeah, we should just call we should just call every MMO a World of Warcraft clone, because that's what they are.
I think people just want to have a game where they can just play with, large numbers of people. Like, that's what they want. And I mean, there are other like MMOs out there. Like, there are. Doesn't mean they're great. Like, I mean,
Well, I
like
mean, so
I used to play a few of the weird, obscure ones. I used to play. Well, obviously, I played Maple Story, but I used to play Mab and Yagi. I used to play Flife, which so apparently some of our, I think a couple of our viewers either used to play or still play Flife. I don't even know if Flife is still a thing, but I
yeah,
played that
second,
for a little while.
like,
Um,
no, no, you're right. These are people who want to play a game with an access to a lot of people.
yeah.
That's always been there. That is the draw. It's just like, everybody's a player character. You can interact with everybody's a player character. You're always online. You are never alone. And to some people, the prospect, just having whispered in their ear, you are not alone,
Hmm.
is enough to make their panties moist.
Yeah. I also
And
played
that's
Elder
what, and
Scrolls
that's,
Online.
yeah, okay. So the problem is that you are not alone formula. Let's face it, World of Warcraft got it right, and got it right for so long and so well that that MMO and World of Warcraft were synonyms. People went to Final Fantasy 11, and there's actually not a lot of there's not a whole lot of similarities between Final Fantasy 11 and World of Warcraft, but people went into Final Fantasy 11, and they were constantly tripping over themselves, like, trying to draw, like, similarities, because that's where they came from, and that was the mindset that stuck with them. You know how every, like, adhesive strip is called a Band-Aid, even though they're not made by the Band-Aid company?
I mean, I get the point. Like, I get it.
Yeah, so that's what World of Warcraft did. But then again, Activision Blizzard, is, as a company, is just so untenable that these people are like, I really don't feel comfortable with living in a world where World of Warcraft is synonymous with my preferred method of playing video games. So they went to Final Fantasy XIV, and they're like, "Oh, great! A game that is so close to World of Warcraft that it's not funny, but is absolutely 100% not World of Warcraft."
Yeah.
Hooray!
So, like, I named off like some of the MMOs that I played. I also did play World of Warcraft for like a very, very teeny tiny short amount of time, like literally shorter than the amount of time I spent on Mab and Yagi and Flyfe. So the only reason why I played World of Warcraft was because at the time, my sister and my brother-in-law were playing it, and they wanted me to join them. I played for.
I mean, I got peer pressured into World of Warcraft 3 times.
Yeah, I played for a couple of
I know
months.
what it is.
I played for a couple of months with them and realized I didn't like it. Like, I still played other MMOs like around that time, before and after. And I liked those more than I liked World of Warcraft. So, I mean, I think that and like, I also played Elder Scrolls Online for a pretty long period of time, definitely longer than the amount of time I spent on World of Warcraft. So, I mean, there are people that want to play MMORPGs, but don't necessarily want that World of Warcraft formula, because the MMOs that I played before and after World of Warcraft, like, I didn't like World of Warcraft. I played through it and I was like, I don't like how this looks. I don't like how it feels. I don't like the mechanics. I don't like the combat system. Like, there's so many things that I do not like about this game specifically, but I can find things that I like about the combat systems, the mechanics, the menus, the whatever in other MMOs that I've played. So, I mean, this is once again a thing where it's like, sure, like, there is like the World of Warcraft specific, game style and build that works for a lot of people, but that doesn't mean it works for everybody. There are people who want to play MMOs that can't find themselves fitting into the World of Warcraft formula, and I happen to be one of those people. Because
the Korean MMOs are really good for telling an interesting story.
Well, I mean, but like, not even like, I mean, obviously, like I said, like, I think you're right about, I think Flyfe and Mab and Yagi, definitely Maple Story, were also Korean, but like Elder Scrolls Online wasn't. Like, that was definitely not a Korean MMO.
Okay, so Bethesda used to be able to tell a story. I mean, that's why people love Skyrim. That's why people play Fallout.
Well,
because what Bethesda did.
I would also argue that the Korean MMOs that I played had the worst stories, but I didn't play them for the stories. I didn't.
Okay,
I skipped the stories. They're terrible, especially in Maple Story. Maple Story can't tell a story if lives depended on it. If they had a gun against their forehead, and like that, the person holding the gun was like, "Tell me the best goddamn video game story ever," they would be shot in cold blood through the forehead.
Okay, it's a unique story.
You can put it that way.
It's not a trope-tastic hero's journey story.
Most people that I played with on those games, like myself, told me that they would skip all the stories as fast as they possibly can because it's just boring.
No! Maple Story was one of the worst of telling. I think they probably would have been better off telling a generic hero's journey story than what it is that they told.
I will say, when I played through ESO, when I played through Elder Scrolls Online, there were stories that I actually paid attention to. Like, I actually listened to the dialogue and stuff. So I will agree with you on that one. So the Korean ones, I would say no.
what Bethesda has always done well arguably until Fallout 75 is atmospheric. Yeah, I was a sucker who pre-bought 75. Yay me. But what they did very well, and this shined through from in all the Elder Scroll games, is what they did well was do atmospheric storytelling, because they knew that they were putting their stories in an open world to be consumed at the player's whim.
Right.
You can't tell a grand narrative. What you can do is give a good baseline atmospheric storytelling like layer, and then let the player kind of conceive the grand narrative that you've dropped into the world and let them consume organically. Bethesda was really, really good at that. That was one of the reasons why Oblivion and Morrowind were such great, such highly regarded games.
I love Oblivion. I love that game so much.
Because I mean, even with all of Oblivion's like engine faults and memeable quality.
Oh yeah, it's kind of a mess of a game, but it's still great.
It's a mess of a game. The problem is like there is not an inch of Morrowind that is forgettable.
Yeah,
because every inch of Morrowind has a well woven atmospheric story told in it.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with Morrowind. Same thing with Skyrim.
Well, I think you meant Oblivion because you were just talking about Morrowind, but I know what you mean.
I mean, yeah, I was actually I thought I was talking about Oblivion.
Oh, okay.
And so I went Oblivion, and then I went back to Morrowind because Morrowind had
Morrowind and Oblivion both have those same aspects, so that's why I kind of figured you were talking about Morrowind. They're both very unforgettable games, even though they're messy. Like I'm not gonna lie about it. Like hell, Skyrim is a mess of a game. Like okay, I'm not gonna lie about that. It is.
So Bethesda games, Bethesda RPGs.
They're messes. They're hot messes.
And the problem is they got away with it because they were very ambitious and they were pretty much able to deliver on 75% of their ambition, which is a lot more than most other people were giving you because most games weren't even half as ambitious as Bethesda games. And, you know, they didn't deliver on, you know, but, you know, 60% of their initial ambitions either. So people forgave the quirkiness of Bethesda games because they were still doing it better than most people anyway.
Yeah. Well, at least they were giving you a finished game at the time. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, a game that buggy, I don't know if you can call it finished, but, you know, the modders help even things out a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's why ESO is so popular, is because the thing between an open world RPG and an MMORPG is just how many people is, you know, what is the potential of you getting PvP griefed?
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference right there. So of course ESO is going to be successful.
I think ESO, like the whole thing was that they kind of did the same thing that World of Warcraft did, which is there are PvE servers and there are PvP servers, if I remember.
Right. No. There's the RP servers and then there's the PvP server.
Yeah.
But what ended up happening was you had Bethesda storytelling behind the very World of Warcraft like other systems.
Mm-hmm.
What Blizzard never had was Bethesda's class of storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
Blizzard came from real-time strategy games.
Listen, I will say that the Warcraft 3 story about the Necromancer King, if I remember correctly, that's what it was. He was like the ice necromancer. That was a good story. Like, because the Lich King, the story of Warcraft 3 and the Lich King, that was a pretty compelling story because I played through that and that had me. That was a good story. But I mean, I didn't care about the other Warcraft games, so whatever, you know.
I mean, the sun shines on a dog's ass at least once.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't know. It just, my point is that they have the ability, if they try hard enough, they have the ability to do it, is my point. That's my point.
But Wrath of the Lich King as an MMO sucked.
I mean, I guess, I don't know. I mean, Is that like is that a story in World of Warcraft? Is that why you say that?
That was a full expand. The Wrath of the Lich King was like the third expansion for World of Warcraft. They did the Lich King thing, and it wasn't nearly as good as it was in just regular Warcraft.
Okay. I didn't play World of Warcraft very much, so I played it for like a month. I played it for like a month or two at the most.
Right. So but the thing was is Bethesda what Bethesda did was it was able to wed their atmospheric storytelling with a system that was different enough from World of Warcraft to not be, hey, oh, you're just copying World of Warcraft with your story. But it was simple enough that people who were coming in from the Elder Scroll games could pick it up and not be so like, oh, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
So that's why Elder Scrolls kind of kept its foothold, that and going free to play way too early.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I had already like left like a little bit I left ESO a little bit after they went free to play. And I just never went back. I don't know, I never felt it. Like I really enjoyed it during the beta cuz I played it during beta and I enjoyed it. And then I continued to play it while they were on the subscription model. Um and then they went free to play mode, and I played it for like a little while after that, and then I was just like, I'm kind of not feeling this game anymore, I'm done. So I kind of left and never came back to it. So I still see advertisements for it like on YouTube and stuff like that. So I
It's
mean,
still going. I mean,
yeah,
they're still releasing expansions. People are still paying for it. So,
yeah,
good on them. But I'm just saying, I've played more MMOs that felt like that felt like they realized that to compete with World of Warcraft, they kind of had to be close enough to World of Warcraft to feel like World of Warcraft, so that World of Warcraft players are comfortable not playing World of Warcraft.
I guess.
Like that was DC Universe Online.
Yeah.
Man,
Well, I can.
let's play World of Warcraft, except for instead of Alliance versus Hordes, it's DC good guy versus DC bad guy.
Right. Well, I could say that if I tried Final Fantasy 14 and it felt like a World of Warcraft clone, I would probably not play it because like I don't like World of Warcraft. Because like literally it's the play style of World of Warcraft was like the thing that I didn't like about it. Like,
Oh, just the very simplistic kind of click through your action bar, rinse, lather, repeat.
I guess. I don't know.
But I mean, you can almost describe almost any MMO combat system like that at this point.
Well, I mean, most of the MMOs that I'm used to playing were based on like skill combos based on not clicking, but like you were in control of a character, so you were like WASD style. Like it would be like basically like playing Skyrim. Like you would have directional movement through WASD, and then the
Mhm.
keys surrounding your WASD keys would be hotkeys for skills. And you would like utilize them at appropriate times and you would combo them off. So like if you like, did, two or three skills in line with each other within a specific amount of time, they would, set off into a combo or something like that. So that's more of the style that I'm used to playing, but like stuff where it's like where I'm doing directional movement based on mouse clicking and like doing like, mouse clicking of like my skills and stuff like that, like that's not really my Jimmy Jams. Like I'm more of like a WAS keyboard skill kind of person,
You can play World of Warcraft WASD.
Okay. I
Yeah,
just didn't like it. I just didn't like it. I don't like
Oh
the
yeah, no,
game.
no, 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 no. That's fine. But I'm just saying what you just described. Like World of Warcraft didn't have combo finishers,
Okay.
but most skill trees in World of Warcraft had uh had basically attack chains
Okay.
that kind of acted like a debuff, root, attack, like high, like mid, like low attack, high attack.
Okay.
Which you were hoping that before you saw a cooldown, before you were kind of completely uh, grasped in cooldowns, the enemy you're attacking died.
Okay.
But there was, like, you could just play the click and click 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 click. But especially if you were PvP centered as a World of Warcraft player, you had to to put in a little bit more effort into your gameplay.
Right.
It's just the PvE side of World of Warcraft did absolutely nothing to train you to play PvP.
Right. Yeah, I just played it for a month and I was like, this is not my thing. So I mean, I'm sure that there's
Right.
more. Like, I barely remember playing it. Like, I remember certain bits and pieces, but all I remember is like it was not an experience that I enjoyed. So I was like, I'm done with it. So yeah.
Right. Final Fantasy 11 was an MMO with a job system, which was pretty cool. Because instead of having just like straight out full alternates, you didn't have to like juggle 3 alternates. You could play one character, and if you got tired trying to raise Black Mage, you could raise White Mage. You could raise Thief.
Okay.
And then after a while, you got to play. You could do a quest to unlock dual jobbing, which was fun.
Okay.
But that was, and I haven't played enough of 14 to know whether or not they kept that system.
Yeah, I have not played. I've never played 11 and I've never played 14. I have no experience with either of those games.
Yeah.
Is 14 like free to play or is it like a subscription model?
It's a subscription model.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, no, Square has gotten like not a lot of people like knock Square for being kind of like uber greedy, but there's a lot of uber greedy shit Square does these days.
I mean, I believe it.
Yeah, I mean they're going into NFTs.
Sure. Who is it?
I mean, sure. They're the Kingdom Hearts games on the Switch because Nintendo didn't pay them to put direct ports.
Whoa. Listen, Lettuce. Are you trying to tell me that Square Enix, a multi-million, possibly multi-billion dollar company, is doing greedy shit to try and make as much money as possible from every single customer that they could possibly have? Is that what you're trying to tell me right now?
Yes. Isn't that weird?
That is what? I can't possibly believe it. So you're trying to tell me that Square Enix is doing the same kind of stuff that every video game company out there would do as well. Is that what you're trying to tell me right now? Because that sounds absolutely bogus, ludicrous bullshit. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. Come on, man. Of course. Of course they're doing greedy shit. Of course a gigantic company is trying to do greedy shit.
And here's the funny thing. Like, yeah. It's not even necessarily known, because the big thing people are complaining about now is on the Switch, Nier Automata is getting a native Switch port.
Oh yeah, I heard a lot of people are worried because it's probably going to look like garbage.
No, it's not.
You don't think so?
No.
It's kind of like a high definition, beautiful game from what I've heard. I've never played it or seen it, so
yeah. But I mean, the Switch can play the Switch can handle 1080 docked.
All right.
Yeah, it can handle 1080 docked. It can play a game like Nier Automata 1080. If it's locked 1080.
Have you played 60. Nier Automata?
Yeah, I've played Nier Automata.
Okay. Is it really good? I've heard it's really good.
I mean, it's a platinum game.
What does that mean? Is that like the name of the company or something?
It's the name of the company that made it.
Okay. Well, I don't know anything
Uh,
about them.
Bayonetta.
Oh, really? I did
Yeah,
not
it's the
know
same.
that.
It's the same company that made Bayonetta.
Oh, okay. No
And
wonder why they put a sexy waifu as the main character. It all makes sense now.
yeah. So, and here's the reason why that game gets a direct. The reason why that game gets a native Switch port instead of the cloud Switch port, the cloud-based port that Kingdom Hearts got, is because because Platinum Games, the engine that Nier Automata uses is the same in-house Platinum Game engine that Bayonetta 2 uses.
Oh, that's interesting.
An engine that was actually built for the Switch.
Oh, that's cool. Well, I guess Switch players rejoice then.
Because Bayonetta 2 was a Switch was released as a Switch exclusive.
Oh, that's cool. Okay.
Because Nintendo was the only one willing to pay to publish the game.
I just realized something. It just suddenly popped into my mind when you said Switch exclusive. I need an update on Triangle Strategy. Where are we on that? Is that out yet on Steam?
Yeah, it's not. No, it's not going to be on Steam till next year, man.
Okay. I wonder if they'll give me like an actual date. I need to know. I want to know. I'm so
as far as anybody knows, it's a Switch exclusive.
Okay, so it'll probably there's no information about it yet.
Yeah, there's not going to be any information in about a year or so. Square Enix will go like, yeah, we're putting this out on Switch. We're going to put this out on Steam, obviously, okay. and PlayStation 5 and Xbox One or Xbox Series X.
My body is super ready for Triangle Strategy to come out.
So, but yes, Nintendo paid for that the year of exclusivity, and Squaresoft's got so much in their pipe they can't really afford to be throwing stuff in the back end of the pipe anyway. Mm-hmm. So yeah, there's not going to be any information on that game for a year, but within a year or so, it'll be on Steam almost certainly. Yeah.
I'm going to be all over that. I might even like stream it. I'm so excited.
Oh yeah, right. Like I could play the game now. I'm just not doing it.
Yeah, I'm so hyped for Triangle Strategy. I want to play that game so bad.
So Nier Automata was developed in an engine that was developed specifically for the Switch.
Okay. All right.
So that's why. So Platinum Games. So Square Enix didn't have to pay anybody to re-engineer the game to work on the Switch. Okay. They were just like somebody just took the game code and ran compile for Switch.exe.
Okay. When people were talking about it, what they were saying was that they were scared that it was not going to look good on the Switch. That's the majority of what I heard people saying about it. So, I mean, I guess they're just idiots then, huh?
Yeah, no, they're idiots.
Okay.
The game will fit on a game cart.
All right.
And the Switch is capable of mob sizes are probably going to be reduced slightly.
All right.
Because the Switch kind of wicks out when there's a lot of shit on the screen.
Right.
But there's ways to make Nier Automata without there's ways of making Nier Automata where they kind of reduce some of the larger mobs and you'll never notice.
All right. I mean, I as a person who's never played the game ever before, I trust your opinion on it.
But as far as graphical fidelity, the backgrounds and everything looking, it's like it'll the game should be able to run it at 1080 60.
Okay.
It's not a big game. There's not a lot of background AI. There's not a really big world string that the game has to constantly process. So I don't think that they're going, and they don't have to recompress the resource, the game data too much because the size of the game already fits on a game card, Switch game card. So I don't think they have a lot to worry about there. It's not a very large game.
All right.
But everybody's up in arms. It's like, oh well, Nier Autonoma's getting a Switch. Why can't Kingdom Hearts? And I'm like, have you seen Kingdom Hearts run on a game? Have you seen Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 run on a system that isn't PlayStation 2?
Yeah.
Because they've ported that game 3 times already, and all 3 times it's been broken. The Squaresoft's custom engine that they were using for Final Fantasy 1, 2 does
so
not
basically, if they wanted to port it, they would probably have to like remake the entire game or something like that.
They would have to write that engine for the Switch.
Yeah.
Just like Epic gave them rights to Unreal Engine. Epic Games gave them the rights to Unreal Engine 4 and 5 for their games.
Right.
And paid them a buttload of cash to make the Kingdom Hearts games exclusives on an Epic Game Store.
Mm-hmm.
And the Epic Game Store ports for Kingdom Hearts for the Kingdom Hearts game were broken.
Right.
Just like the PlayStation 3 ports for Kingdom Hearts were broken. Just like the PlayStation 4 ports were broken.
Right.
Just like the Xbox ports were broken.
So just give up on it. Got it. Got it.
Well, yeah. It's just like this is the fourth system they're going to try to port them to. They have to pay a company to port those engines, and it's not just one engine; it's 5.
Yeah.
One is in a different engine. 2 is in a different engine. Dream Drop Distance is in a different engine. Birth by Sleep is in a different engine.
Sure. Well, yeah, I think I as a person who's never really cared too much about Kingdom Hearts games, I think I can sleep okay at night knowing that they're not going to be ported over into anything else. So I'm okay with that.
When I'm not locked on Twitter for saying meanies, I like poking fun at Squaresoft fans. People are like, oh, dude, this game is coming. And I'm like, yeah, in 5 years.
Yeah.
Suck it, nerd.
Yeah.
Because they get really upset when you remind them that it takes Square Enix at least 3 years to shit.
Right. Well, hey, man, it's all good because I know that the next Elder Scrolls game is probably not going to come out for another 20 or 30 years, so it's okay. I still got Skyrim, so I'm good.
Oh, you got Space Fallout coming, man.
I'm not gonna play that game, dude.
You're not gonna play Space Rim?
No, unless somebody buys it for me, I'm not gonna play it.
Oh man, shit! I might buy you Space Rim.
I will play it if you buy it for me, but I'm not gonna buy it. It
actually didn't look that bad.
All right. I mean, I don't know. It didn't seem like something I really cared too much about at the time. So I'm like, it's one of those things where it's like, I'll play it if somebody like wants to give it to me, but I'm not going to go out of my way for it. So it's all good.
I mean, the way they tried selling it made it sound a lot like No Man's Sky. But
I guess, I don't know. I guess we'll find out when it comes out, huh?
Yeah, next year. Next year. It's actually supposed to come out like early next year.
All right. Well, if you or somebody else buys it for me, I will let you know what I think about it when it comes out. Or if you just play it by yourself, buddy, you can tell me about it too, and I'll be okay with that.
I gotta buy Shredder's Revenge at some point.
Okay, I'm not really into the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles stuff, but I respect anybody who does because you do you, and that sounds fun.
Well, me and Cinder Shadow, being that we are like roughly 3 weeks apart from each other, like
in age.
Cinder Shadow's like like 3 like half a month older than I am. Because he just had his birthday and my birthday is actually just coming up.
Okay.
He said that he wanted to play Shredder's Revenge, and I'm like, does that thing have an online co? Oh, it does have co-op.
Are you gonna play with Cinder Shadow?
I might actually try to play Shredder's Revenge with Cinder. We'll stream Shredder's Revenge.
Nice. I was going to say you two should stream it together. It'll be a good time. By the way, for anybody listening, check in the link down below in the description. I always keep Mr. Lettuce's YouTube link down there. So if Cinder Shadow and Lettuce end up streaming together that game,
It'll
go
be
and
on
check out
Cinder's.
Lettuce.
It'll be a Cinder's on Cinder's channel only because I don't do shit. I don't do shit.
Well, subscribe to him anyways. And you know what? Oh, go ahead.
No, subscribe to me, suckers.
Yeah, do it. It's totally not a troll. He clearly makes content. I mean, clearly he's sitting right here in front of me with the two of us on this stripper pole together. We're making content. You can hear the sound of our slick, oiled up bodies rubbing against the pole, can't you, audience? Yeah, yeah, you like that, don't you? Yeah,
like somebody somebody fisting a jar of mayonnaise.
You like that? You hear that? That's me licking Lettuce's ear. Yeah, you like that, don't you? Yeah, I'm so glad we installed the stripper pole in the studio, dude. This is so nice. Honestly, guys, we've been on the stripper pole the entire time of this podcast. We have not sat down once. We've been
he's been. I've just been twirling there in the base. He's been hanging up from the ceiling, kind of. And every once in a while, he's just start tongue my ear hole.
Yeah. That's why I've been quiet a lot during some of his rants that he's done. Like, so when I'm ranting, he's tongue my ear hole, and when he's ranting, I'm tongue his ear hole on the stripper pole. So that's kind of, we just wanted to give you the proper visual of, and you can go back. You can even go back into the podcast, like right now, guys. Go back 10 or 20 minutes and just really carefully listen to either one of us like ranting or speaking nonstop, and you'll definitely be able to tell that we're on the stripper pole, like fondling each other's naughty bits and things like that. So you can tell it's there. Like, I promise you. So anyways, I think we had a good time on the stripper pole talking about games tonight, buddy. So I think maybe we should wrap this up. What do you think?
Homo. Why not homo? Yeah, let's homo. All of the homo.
My favorite part of that is the butt slap.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Did you see in the last podcast I stuck that in there?
Yeah, I saw that. That was brilliant. Thank you. No homo.
That. Why not homo?
Let's homo. Yes, all the homo.
All right.
Remember Aunt Susan, super straight.
Totally no homo. All right, buddy. I think we should wrap this up. So, is there any last minute thoughts you want to get off your head real quick while we're sliding around on the pole?
No, man. I think we've done it.
All right. Well, let me just launch off this pole with this amazing backflip that I'm going to do right now. Landed it. Okay, because now we gotta actually end this. So I'm going to say all the wonderful things, which is, if you haven't already, like, comment, and subscribe if you're brand new here. That's greatly appreciated. Ring-a-ding the notification bell so you can know when we're going to be doing podcasts or when we're doing streams or whatever the hell it is that we feel like at any given time. Those are all super greatly appreciated. If you're going to go into the comments, please tell us what you think about the new Imaginary Boys stripper pole. Do you think it was a good addition? We paid like $800 to get this thing installed in here, and it took a lot of time. And I think it really improves the studio at this point. So go ahead and just tell us what you think of the new stripper pole. Greatly appreciate it.
It needs more butt plugs, though. I'll have to go get some butt plugs.
Yeah, Lettuce he's got all the butt plugs, so I'm not super worried about that. We might need some more grease, buddy. If you're gonna go get the butt plugs, go and get the grease too, like some butter or Crisco or something. I'd greatly appreciate that. Anyways, check in the description below for all the wonderful links, such as PayPal and Streamlabs. All donations are greatly appreciated, and they really help us out, seriously. Also, wonderful shout out to the amazing Patreon members, which include Bo, Falcon, Fajuk Enterprises, the lovely Miss Rebecca, as well as Scorpigeist. Your regular donations are greatly appreciated, really truly help us out, and we love every single one of you, whether you're paying or not, but especially the wonderful paying Patreon members, because you bless us with your lovely, sexy money, but also your lovely, sexy ears. Thank you so much. Also, check in the description below for the Teespring merch. We really appreciate you. That's not a word. We greatly appreciate you when you support us by buying Teespring merch. So thank you guys so much. And I think
Buy
other
all
than
our
that,
playsets and toys.
playsets and toys. Other than that, I think it's okay for us to finally say, as I swing around one more time on our lovely stripper pole with all the Crisco added on, we have been the Imaginary Boys. Good night, everyone.